Hello and welcome back to my channel for another new Doctor Who themed video. Now there's a recent article on the Mirror about Doctor Who which got me thinking. The headline was Doctor Who could time travel to a new day of the week after Saturday night's ratings dip, and basically if you haven't read the article it went on to suggest that Doctor Who is supposedly moving to a Sunday night slot for Series 11 instead of the traditional Saturday night slot, and that's to avoid the clash with Strictly and whatnot. And this got me thinking, because as well, for a time I've had a video concept in my head that looks at not only what time of week Doctor Who is on, which day it is, but what time of year and what time of day as well, and just looking at, you know, whether there is a perfect slot for Doctor Who in the week or not, because fans have varying opinions about whether it should be in spring or in autumn. You know, what time of day it should be, you know, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock if it's too late for younger children, and, you know, the time of week doesn't come up as much, but this has kind of brought it to light, this article. So in this video I'm going to be looking at what we've had in the past, and kind of giving my own take on when I think Doctor Who should be on, and then I'll invite you to comment below what you think as well, and we can have a debate about it, because it's a very interesting topic, I think. And as I say, I don't really believe there is an optimum time for Doctor Who to be on. You know, there's no right answer, but nevertheless, I want to think about it and debate about it. So first of all, like I say, let's look at what we've had so far. In the 60s, 1963, the show was conceived. It was on a Saturday night. It was designed for Saturday night, which is how I suppose it's kind of had that status over the years of being a Saturday night tea time drama. And then when it returned in 2005, there was no question about it being on a Saturday night again, as it has been for the whole of the new series. But as for the classic series, in the 60s it was on more or less all year round because more episodes were being made. It was a weekly thing for the cast to film a few weeks in advance. My research then shows that during Pertwee's run it was kind of over the first half of the year, kind of spring, early summer. Then into the Hinchcliffe and Holmes era it kind of moves into the autumn, the winter and a bit of the spring as well, which suits the darker subject matter of some of those stories. Again, the show was broadcast in spring and summer for the Davison era, and then it went back to autumn from the Trial of the Time Lord onwards, and it stayed there for the rest of the classic era. Series 1, 7 and Series 10 have all been broadcast, at least partially in the spring, with Series 6 Part 2, Series 7 Part 2, Series 8, 9 and the soon-to-be broadcast 11 all broadcast in the autumn. So as I say, fans have many different opinions and ideas about when Doctor Who should be on, about the time of year, the time of day, the time of week. And so, kind of prompted by this Mirror article, I put up some polls on Twitter just asking fans, you know, what they thought, given the options of, firstly, for day of the week, if it should be Saturday or Sunday or a weekday, because of course, as I probably should have said already, in the Davison era, it was experimented to have Doctor Who during the week, so it kind of clashed with Coronation Street and stuff like that, I believe, which didn't go down too well. And for that poll, the clear winner was the Saturday slot, of course, because it's traditional, because it's the slot that the show has occupied for much of its run. But interestingly, some fans were open to the Sunday slot as well, and 41%, as of the time I'm recording this video, have actually chosen that slot, with 52% on the Saturday. So hey, that's interesting. I'll go into what I think of that later on. As for the time of day, I gave the options of between 5 and 6, 6 and 7, 7 and 8, and 8 and 9 PM, and it's kind of a mix between the 6 to 7 and 7 to 8 PM slots, because a lot of fans think, even adult fans, that it shouldn't be on too late because of kids staying up to watch it and bedtimes and things like that. And then finally, for the time of year, interestingly, the winner for this one is autumn. Spring does follow close behind, but I mean, it's always between those two. Summer and winter only get about 10% of the vote each, but spring and autumn definitely at the forefront there. But autumn just a little bit ahead, which is interesting, because I think that there's a kind of stigma, particularly with the new series, that the show should be broadcast in the spring months, in the slot it's occupied for the first kind of 6 or 7 series, and it went back to it for series 10 as well. So what do I think of this? What's my opinion? Personally, to be honest, I do much agree with these polls. I think, firstly, the time of year, autumn, is very atmospheric. It's when the show was first on, November 1963. In many ways, the show was designed for that time of year, and I think it's kind of integrated into its premise as almost a slightly kind of dark, mysterious, autumnal Saturday night tea time drama. It's kind of got that ethereal quality, and especially when you watch Doctor Who in the autumn, as I did last autumn, well, I mean, as I do all year round, but particularly watching episodes, in particular the black and white ones in the autumn months, you do get more of a sense of that mystery, of that alien quality, and, having the dark outside, having the noise of the wind. In my house, I'm lucky enough to have a fireplace as well, a nice big stone, kind of old-fashioned cottage one. So sometimes you hear the wind coming through that, and it all just adds to the atmosphere. For me, that is the perfect Doctor Who viewing experience, an autumn early evening, because that's the thing as well, having it on an early evening in the autumn as opposed to the spring or summer, it gets dark from 5 p.m, so you get that atmosphere from quite an early time. You don't have to go into the later hours to get that, which you do have to do with the spring and summer slots. And one thing that annoyed me with Series 10 in particular, which is the most recent series to be broadcast in a spring-summer slot, is that particularly as you get to the end of the series, moving into June and July, the sun was just completely shining through the windows. I mean, it doesn't help that there's no blind in our living room, but nevertheless, if you're having to close the blind to watch Doctor Who, if the sunlight is shining onto the screen, that can't be right, and it doesn't sit easily with me, and it's why I'm always slightly wary when fans say, it should just be broadcast in spring. That would solve the ratings problems, that would sort the show out. And yeah, I don't really believe that myself. I don't really subscribe to that myself. With Series 10, kind of the lie of the land, I remember the Eaters of Light as well, and the finale to a certain extent. You just get that sunlight, and it's so irritating because you can't see what's going on properly. You can't concentrate. As well, there's an element for the spring and summer slots, I guess. The negative side of it is that people, families go out. If it's a nice day on a Saturday, they might not be back for a 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock slot. They might be out playing, I don't know, in the park, or playing football, or walking off somewhere. And so one advantage of the autumn slot, another advantage, is that you don't get that. If it's moody and dark outside, then people want to stay in and watch television. And as well as all this, with the stigma about the spring slot being the best, I mean, there's the whole issue of ratings. It's debatable as to whether the Capaldi era had lower ratings or not because of the BBC iPlayer stuff that's taken into account these days, and that makes the kind of standard 7-day TV viewing figures not really comparable in a fair way to previous ones, because there's all that extra stuff, watching it online, watching recordings and iPlayer, all the stuff that isn't taken into account by those Barb viewing figures. But certainly I think that moving to Series 10 to a spring slot compared to the autumn slot of Series 8 and 9, it didn't really raise the viewing figures that much anyway. It didn't actually make that big a difference. And you could just say that's down to the public not liking Capaldi's Doctor or the era or whatever. But I think Series 10 proved that it doesn't really make much difference having it in the spring or autumn, apart from the fact that, like I say, you just get more sunlight, and that's very irritating. I mean, as well as this, there's the issue of the time of day it's broadcast. the slot, because I believe in autumn that's when the show in the past has clashed with the Strictly slot, and that's what's pushed it to go on to later. So having Strictly in the 7 o'clock slot, I don't know, and then having Doctor Who in the 8 o'clock slot afterwards, because they both can't be in the same slot, and Strictly is somehow more important to the BBC. So that's happened in the past, and certainly with this suggestion about having the show on a Sunday, that wouldn't be an issue. I've already seen some people suggest there wouldn't be as much clash on a Sunday with social commitments, because trips to the pub or parties or whatever, they tend to be on Saturday nights as opposed to Sundays. Sundays are kind of a bit more boring, lazy, I suppose, before the week ahead. And I can relate to that. I mean, I would usually try and watch television on both Saturday and Sunday if I can, but on a Sunday, it is nice to just sit down and watch something in the evening before the start of a new school week. There's just something quite nice about that, I think, and it is lazy, it is nice and calm, the calm before the storm, I suppose. In terms of what I've watched in the past, I mean, there have been things like Victoria, and I know that's on at 9 PM, and Doctor Who would have to have an earlier slot, but you kind of get those kind of period dramas and things on a Sunday night, I suppose, and yeah, part of me thinks that Doctor Who could work in that slot, really. I mean, take Sherlock as well. Sherlock Series 4, that was on a Sunday, 3 consecutive Sundays, and that did fine. It did perfectly well, even. I think generally there's less competition on a Sunday night as well, which, again, could increase the ratings, could, increase Doctor Who's public reputation. I don't know, really. I don't know what to think. I mean, part of me thinks that moving it from a Saturday to a Sunday, like moving it from autumn to spring, wouldn't make that much difference anyway, really. Or it wouldn't make enough of a difference, so it's noticeable, so it makes a difference to the viewing figures, anything like that. But part of me thinks it would be interesting to see it in that Sunday slot. I don't know, I guess we'll have to wait and see if the rumour turns out to be true, and if so, what the consequences are of moving it to the new slot. All I know is that the show has always been on a Saturday before, apart from a couple of odd different occasions in the 80s. Always broadcast for the first time on a Saturday evening slot. That is the tradition, and that is kind of what the public associate with Doctor Who as well, I guess. So moving it to a Sunday, I suppose, would be a risk. It would have to be advertised well. It would have to be part of the big overhaul and rebrand that the show is currently going through. But I think it could work. I do think it could work. But hey, it's hypothetical anyway. So I suppose that's about it for this video. I've given a brief overview of when I think Doctor Who should be broadcast, kind of early autumn evenings when it's dark and atmospheric outside. I would be happy, I think, to see it move to a Sunday, just to try that slot out, see if it makes a difference, but I'm not totally convinced that it would. Anyway, comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear what you think. It's a very interesting topic, as I said at the start of the video, because there's not really a right answer. As fans, we watch Doctor Who whenever we want. We watch Doctor Who DVDs or repeats, or we watch it on iPlayer, on demand. Many of us, I know I do, watch it on weekdays or Saturdays or Sundays or any time of the week, really. So I suppose there's no real right answer about when Doctor Who should be on to get the most exposure and most attention and to be most successful. I certainly don't know, but anyway, comment your thoughts below and we can have a nice debate about it, and it'll be really interesting to see what you've got to say. Other than that, thank you so much for watching this video, for hearing me babble on for however long it's been, and I'll see you very soon for some more new Doctor Who content. So thanks again, and goodbye from me, guys.